I'm Sean Matic, I'm the video content producer. Brought my buddy David Michaels along today, fellow rider, fellow YCRS fan, a little shout out, and Multistrada V4 rider. But the reason I brought Dave over is not just because he's so handsome.
Oh, go on.
Oh, keep flattering me. But is actually, he's also a consumer of action cameras and owned the Insta360 One R, a camera that I kind of had a bit of a love-hate relationship with. You just kind of had a full hate relationship.
It was love-hate, and then it turned to hate, period. No love anymore.
Okay, as a lot of you commented on the YouTube comments when I did the review on the Insta360 One R, and I know there's a Generation 2, there's an X2 now. We haven't got our hands on that yet. And I know the One R's been out for a while, but we've been busy making motorcycle videos for your motorcycle viewing pleasure, so we just got around to doing it now. What's the big fatal flaw with the One R, in your opinion?
It's buggy. I have no confidence in its ability to record what I'm out recording. And I go on long rides. We go on long rides together. I'll press record, I'll set everything up. Half hour later, I find out it's all corrupted. Do it again, same thing. And it's sort of like 80% at this point. So I just gave up on the camera because it's too much for me to set it up. You know, you got to put a mount on and think about different angles. To do all that just to have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
So I don't have any faith in that model anymore.
Okay, so fair to say that's a pretty big camera flaw. Yeah. Why'd you get a 360 camera? Was that your first and only 360?
It was. That was my first 360 camera. I haven't gotten another one. I plan on it. I think I had a bit of a bad taste in my mouth, but I'm thinking about getting another one. And the reason I like them is because it's hard to capture the excitement of motorcycles from other action cameras. You can get some aspects of it, but for me, the movement of the bike, certain angles that you just cannot achieve with anything else. That's what attracted me to them, is that you could capture the excitement, even if you're not a rider. I think you get a sense of just how exciting riding is by some of the things you can do with the 360 camera. So that's why I got one.
What are some of the things you can do that you can't do with a regular action camera?
I rode my motorcycle cross country, and so I spent a lot of time just playing with the camera, all different angles. And uniformly, friends of mine who ride and don't ride would ask me, "Do you have a drone flying next to you, shooting you?" And there's that aspect, but there's also the horizon leveling.
What for me was a game changer is you don't miss the action. The only shot, you have one of these mounted on the front of your bike, the only time you're going to miss a rider that's close to you, around you, is if he's directly behind you and you're blocking him. If he's to your left or right, in front of you, 45 degrees, 0 degrees, 90 degrees, you can get him. And the cool thing is that in post, you can selectively go back and pick the parts of the shot you want. You can even use as if you had 3 different cameras covering the scene. You can go back and replay. If you were just in a total mayhem and there's stuff going on all around you, you can replay different angles of that with one camera.
Yeah.
So that's huge. That's game changing, and that's what really jumped out at me when I used this. But unfortunately, much as David had some negative experiences with the stability of the files, I had the same thing. I found it pretty difficult to use the controls on the body to know if I was in 5.7K 360 mode or if I was actually shooting time lapse or taking a photo.
Especially on the fly. If I wanted to hit it or change something while I was riding, it was almost impossible.
And let's be honest, when you're doing action camera videography or photography on a bike, yes, they have a beautiful phone app, and it worked much better than the interface for this, but you may not always have your phone mounted on your handlebar. And one of the other things I noticed is if you power down your phone, which you're going to want to do if you're not hooked up to power, which most of us aren't when we're out in the field. Maybe some of these modern bikes, we're all running power to them. It shut off the record. So just as I got this pitching shot, and you head out there, and then lo and behold, you stopped recording 5 seconds into your scene. So great potential. They had some bugs. There's a first generation one. From what I understand, the X2 is a lot more robust and pretty cool. One other thing I do want to point out while I have this out, before we deep dive into the One R camera, There's a stitch line where the software has to stitch together the image from, lens 1 and lens 2. On a thinner camera, it's going to be less noticeable.
Right.
Now you think, well, why would I aim a camera at my subject like this? The reason for that is, if you extend this out on these poles, people are like, how did you get that shot? Yeah. It looks like, an FPV drone's flying right over you, keeping a perfect distance, and this is how you do it. And the rad thing that Insta360 did, they figured out how to, in the camera or in the software on your phone or your desktop software, erase whatever pole's holding the camera, as long as it's in the same line like that. Now you go and turn it like this. Now you're going to see this pole in the shot, but you're going to get much less distortion, and you're not going to get those stitch lines. So sometimes it's a matter of knowing ahead of time what your shot is, to see how it's made. You don't want to show how the sausage is made, so we don't want to see this pole in the shot. So we turn it this way, but now we're getting the bottom edge of the image, so it's going to be a little bit more distortion, and we're going to see that stitch line.
I will say a quick thing about that with the One X is the streamlined nature of it does help with wind buffeting, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But then you have to deal with all the bugginess. So.
Yeah. The other thing that I really like about the One R over the One X or even the X2, it's just a little bit more rugged of a construction and design for what we're doing. Because let's be honest, you throw a camera on a motorcycle, you're asking a lot of it. Most cameras are not designed to handle that. And if this were to come off and hit the ground, it's got a lot better chance of surviving. It's got the case around it. And then what's really cool about the One R, which you don't have with the X model cameras, is it's modular, as you can see. So this is how it comes. You have your option of your standard action camera lens or your 360, two opposing lenses. But as an add-on, you can also get the 1-inch wide sensor, wide angle mod. Now, what's so great about a 1-inch sensor, you say? Well, 1-inch sensor, this is co-designed with Leica, by the way. It lets more light in, so it should work better theoretically in lower light situations. And you're just also, the larger your sensor, the better your image is going to be. That's why phones nowadays, pretty much every phone shoots 4K. It doesn't mean what you shoot on your phone with 4K is going to look better than like a cinema camera that's shooting HD. There's something about a big sensor letting in more light that you get more detail on an image, even if you're not shooting at a super high resolution like 4K or 5K. This actually shoots up to 5.3K. One of the really cool things about this company is they're constantly updating the software. So you buy a camera and 6 months down the line, a year down the line, your camera suddenly has a bunch more capability, much as your computer or your phone has. And that's pretty neat. That's for me, that's a good user value in looking at this as a potential brand. And the stuff's not all gimmicky. Some of the items, what the software can do, which we'll get into more later, can be a little bit maybe more for social media, but a little bit less what we're doing. The style of video I like to do is I want it to look fairly close to what it would be like if you were there, but I'm not going to put a big expensive SLR camera on the back of a motorcycle and have it fall off and there goes $5,000. But an action camera is perfect for that. There's some really cool shots and things you can do with the software, like Tiny Planet. You can have a lot of curvature. You can really play around with what it looks like. We're going to deep dive a little later a bit more into the different shots.
I have to say that the software from Insta360 was incredibly user-friendly.
Yeah.
Super easy to use both on the phone, on the app, and on the desktop. They were both of them so easy. You need no prior experience editing, and they just make it very simple. So.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the cool things about the phone app is you can pretty much make, you can just have your camera be out in the field and your phone and edit and produce a video and do a bunch of effects on it. Okay, so why don't we go over, what comes with the camera itself, how you use this camera, as well as some of the accessories that are available through Insta360. This is a good thing to keep in your pocket. This is what comes with the accessory pack. It's just a tool for loosening and tightening these screws. Because of a lot of the stress you're going to put on having a camera out on a long arm, you really want to tighten these down a lot, more than you're going to be able to do most likely with your fingers, unless you're super strong.
if it's not super tight, the wind will take over.
Yeah. So the camera comes in a chassis case, very similar to the GoPro. And this is the cool part. So that's the front of the camera pointing at your subject. There's the back with the LCD screen. What's really neat about this camera though, and I think they're the first company that did anything like this, they made it modular. Remove the battery, just get that quick release with your thumb right there. And the lens and the body of the camera separate. And boom, you just have your lens, your standard lens facing forward towards your subject and the LCD back at you. Some of the accessories they sent us, one of them is these lens guards, which are right here. This is only for the 360 module. They're a great thing to use. I recommend it. The really cool thing about Insta360, where David was talking a second ago about how good the software is on the phone and the desktop, it can recognize, oh, you've got the lens guard on. And it knows how to digitally manipulate the image so it becomes invisible. Almost never did I really notice the lens guard once I edited something. For the first time, there was a particular shot where I was really moving my point of view around a lot and I could see it for a second, but 99% of the time I could never see the lens guards in the shot. One thing you want to do though is make sure you keep these clean, same with the lens. But you know, when we're going on a motorcycle or we're going on a racetrack, a track day, and you literally have a camera in the front of your bike while you're going 100 miles an hour and little stone chips are flying up from the rear wheel of the guy in front of you, you know, one of those hits your lens and that's it. You got to replace either the whole camera or the lens module. So that'll protect your lens, and you know, this is pretty affordable. I put the graphic for the price because I don't know off the top of my head, but I'd highly recommend this for the 360 camera. And then here on the 1-inch sensor module, also comes with its own lens guard. To put that in the chassis, you have to take that off, just so it'll fit through the cage for the camera. Pretty easy to do. That goes there. And like I was saying, the cool thing about the 1-inch sensor or the regular standard conventional lens is that you have the option. You can do it in camera on the interface, or you can do it in post. Most things, if they give me the option to do an effect, you know, right there in camera and it's burned in there, or do it later where it's going to manipulate the footage. Since I have to go in the edit room anyway, I'll do it later. And the thing you can do later is horizon leveling. And the way it does that is it crops in to your image, and basically up to 45 degrees, it's going to keep the horizon level. So you're going to get that MotoGP look.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite features.
Yeah, me too. And let's be honest, we're all a little bit of narcissists riding motorcycles. We want to show off to our friends. We want to impress them how cool it looks. And on sport bikes, one of the coolest things is the lean angle.
Yeah.
So you really get to see that, much the same as when we're watching, you know, Marquez and Rossi and the guys on the MotoGP.
That's exactly how I look.
Always, you know. And we all know how it looks. You know, you feel like I'm going like Marquez, dragging an elbow, and then you have the footage to prove that.
Well, actually, but it is good for that purpose to evaluate your own riding, because it's giving you a truer perspective of it.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the track footage we use, either for myself when I go to a track day or race, or when I'm, you know, with Troy and John and the guys from Mo, I'll mount it on the front of my R1. And if no one's around or I want to look at my riding, I can just get the point of view from the back of the camera. But you get a good idea of what you're doing. You know, you can for sure tell if you're keeping your eyes up, looking through the corner, that kind of thing. And if something's happening in front of you, or you want to get the guy in front of you, you just, you know, switch the point of view to the person in front of you. Right. All right, why don't we deep dive a little bit more into some of the accessories. So Insta360 sent us the motorcycle mount bundle. I think previously they sent me one with the 1X. And I just opened this like a few days ago, even though I've been shooting with the camera for quite a while, to realize they've updated it. And I was super...
Just like RAM mounts.
Yeah. And I had no idea. So kudos to them for doing that. A lot of you out there, that motorcyclists, if you like, you know, your smartphone on your handlebars or whatever, you're probably familiar with the company RAM Mount. They make mounts for all types of things, for keeping your tablet in your pickup truck or what have you. So that's your handlebar clamp, or if you have a trellis frame, that'll work for that. I do on my KTM. These things are really designed for, you know, a round tubular tube to clamp on it like that. But you know, you could use the subframe, the main frame, the handlebars obviously. You know, a lot of bikes are going to have aluminum beam frames or carbon fiber or what have you. You may be a little more, and clip-on handlebars if it's a sport bike, so you might be a little more hard-pressed to have as many options as I had on the KTM. Some bikes have a little less room on the clip-ons or the handlebars, so you know, check that before you run out and go shooting. It's always good to figure out all the places you can rig these cameras on your bike before you actually head out into the field to shoot. These arms come included in the motorcycle mount kit. You just basically want to get a little adapter that'll screw on here that has the action camera style little clip, and you can put that here and here. Or the other thing that Insta360 includes with the camera, and this is pretty neat, you get a little mini tripod here, so if you want to do some vlogging, selfie type stuff, get yourself in the shot, no one else is around, you can just use that as so. Mount the camera right like that. Or they have this thing called bullet time. The 1X had that as well. One of the new features they added recently with the update for the software is you can do a bunch of bullet time shots, and Insta360, after you select 6 of the shots, it's going to edit them together, and it's going to put you or whoever's spinning this apparatus in the shot, and they're all going to stay perfectly centered while the background changes all around them. Yeah, it's pretty bitchin'. That's like one of those things that they have another thing, I think they call it counter or something like that. Every time you pass a car, a little graphic comes up like 1, 2, 3. You know, I don't know if that maybe encourages reckless riding or whatever, but you know, and the software is doing that, and it's actually changing the perspective of the point of view to keep the cars in frame and kind of pan with them as you go by and putting a number over them.
I didn't know about that.
It can also track a subject. It has voice activation, so you can start and stop your recording with your voice. Wow. And you can even say, you know, I forgot the term they use for it, but like hot track or whatever. We were shooting some guys doing skateboarding earlier. So the software will recognize the subject, and even though he's changing relative to the lenses where he's going, it's going to automatically track him and keep him in the center of your shot once you edit it in for your 16:9 conventional image. So a lot of really cool stuff they do. So that's pretty much all the accessories. So we got the Insta360 Twin Edition, so it comes with your 360 lens, which is 2 lenses when processors 180 degrees apart, your standard action camera lens, and then as an accessory or as a bundle, you can get the 1-inch wide angle. And the neat thing about that is, you know, not everyone has a film crew to follow them around, or, well, right. The guys at Motorcycle.com don't have a crew, they just have me, but but you get the idea.
I've got me.
Yeah, you can go out by yourself and get perspectives of you riding that you shot that look like they're from a distance, and it's pretty neat. And then because the 360 is all the video around you, it's dynamic. You can change. It's not just a single shot of your torso on the bike that you mounted a regular action camera on the handlebar, and then okay, after, you know, not even a minute, after 20 seconds of that, we get the idea.
Yeah, someone said it to me this way once, and I thought it was pretty simple and powerful. It's always pointing everywhere, all the time.
Yeah, that summarizes it pretty well, and it's pretty accurate. If you go on Insta360's website, they show a bunch of different motorcycle mount options. We did quite a few of those. One of them is called the Unicorn, where it's mounted off the front of the bike and going straight out. That's where, yes, it works. Yes, the shots look phenomenal, but the two things you got to keep in mind, we covered it a bit earlier, is like make sure that stuff's cranked down really hard. I think in a real world application, if you could find a second point to support that arm, so it's not just all, you know, like from my elbow, you got a heavy camera here and you're going over bumps, it wants to start going like this. Yeah, that thing's bouncing around. We're going 13 miles an hour according to my speedometer, getting up around 20. This, I suppose, could even fall down and potentially get in the wheel. So yeah, I don't feel too good about this setup. We'll see how the footage looks right now. Probably getting a lot of attention riding through the middle of Hollywood, Griffith Park like this too, with a big old pole on the end of my motorcycle. So if you could, like I was putting it on my dash and having the base of it right here, and that, you know, that support helps out. As you can see, I'm actually resting the adjustable ball head mount against the dash on the bike. Now, it's not really weighing against it. The other thing is often you're going to get a bit of bounce. So maybe if you want to put, a soft rag or some kind of cushion or foam rubber where it's touching to help dampen that vibration. Speaking of vibration, they have a thing with Insta360 called flow state stabilization. It works really well.
It is really good.
I don't have a GoPro 9 to do a head-to-head comparison, but I know on GoPro the stabilization is pretty phenomenal as well. And we're in a great time for motorcycles, and we're in a great time for video equipment, which is pretty cool. So you have these two little ball mounts. This one comes standard with the motorcycle mount kit, and it has the thread on the bottom so you can put the telescopic pole on, or you can get an accessory one like this, and that'll let you put your camera on right on the end. Pretty straightforward like that, boom. Okay, that covers pretty much the camera and setting it up. Oh, one other item, we've showed this one time before in the 1X video. This Medusa Glide Cam vest. It's pretty cool. Something we did different today was we extended it out a bit. Like I said earlier, the further out you get the camera from the subject, the more you can see. It's pretty neat. The more it looks like a drone shot following you around. And then the other thing that comes in the motorcycle mount kit is just a bunch of different mounts. Some stickies with 3M, you can put a mount on your helmet. Stuff you're probably already used to if you've used any action camera that's been on the market recently. All right, so that about covers the Insta360 One R modular camera. The biggest thing that what we started the video off with was our problem with their first 360 camera, the 1X, was it just wasn't stable. When it worked, it was pretty good, but half the time your files were corrupted and you didn't know till you got back, and you just spent all that time setting up a shot and telling your friends about it. But yeah, I've shot with the One R multiple times at racetracks since then, stuff for Motorcycle.com, following Troy and John Burns around, riding with my friends on our mini motos at the kart track, and it works really well. I have had once or twice some files get corrupted and not work with the One R. Actually, I've been using this probably for, I don't know how many months, but it's been a few months. Like I said, I've been busy with other videos. I think in the last couple weeks, I think were my first times I had files that actually became corrupted. One other thing I have had, and I've had this kind of happen with all action cameras, is they do freeze up occasionally, and you got to take it out of the case, disconnect the battery because you can't get it to power down or stop indicating recording. I've had that with pretty much every action camera I've used. I think that's just part of the price of packing so much tech into such a small package with heat and things like that, and using them in the sun and bouncing them around. But yeah, that wraps up the coverage of the Insta360 One R. I'm a fan of it. I was a fan of the 1X, but there was some big caveats. Sometimes there's a new motorcycle that comes on the scene, and the thing is just, there's so much potential in it, but it's Gen 1, and there's a couple of kinks to work out. I think that's what happened a little bit with the 1X. The 1R pretty much addressed all my issues with that. The stability was the first one. I found the 1X a little bit vulnerable. You only had the screw mount option on the bottom. If this thing's out in the wind, there's a lot of torque to it. If it flies off, it's probably going to get destroyed, where you got the cage around this guy, so you got a good chance of it surviving a tumble. Anyway, that about does it. David, is there anything else you wanna add in there?
I think you might have convinced me to get another 360 camera. I'm not sure which one I'm going to get yet, but all this discussion around it made me realize that I need to get over the fact that I have one that just doesn't work for me, and get one of the new fancy ones. Yeah, that's a life lesson, right? Don't let the past dictate the present. That's correct. I'll never, ABS, this is my ABS, this is my traction control. Well, it's not 1985 anymore. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and just being out with you today, shooting with them, it brought back a lot of the memories of great footage that I could never have accomplished with anything else. So they are very cool, and I think I will probably buy another one. Yeah, and I will add, it's nice, because you're adding two cameras in one, because I don't know if I would replace completely a standard action camera with a 360 camera. Just one of the reasons being the files are so big. They take up a lot of space.
but you don't always necessarily need the 360. You know, if you just want to capture your torso or just what's in front of you, or maybe you're at a riding school and an instructor's following you, you just want to see, you know, how your riding is, you just go with one of the conventional lenses. You're going to get a really good image. Set it to, you know, 2.7K, 4K, or on this one you can go as high as 5.3, and that's really going to be all you need, and your files are going to be smaller and your battery's going to last a little bit longer. But yeah, that covers it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure and go to Motorcycle.com to see the written words, and come back here often for all your motorcycle and motorcycle gear review videos and shootouts, etc., etc. All right, that's it. Thanks. Oh, give us a thumbs up, please, if you like it. If you don't, hey, in the famous words of John Burns, what are we going to do? We're going to try harder next time. All right, guys, thanks. Bye.